Hello. I'd like to call to order the Johnson County Council, April 14th, 2025 meeting. Amy, would you do roll call, please?
Pamela Burton.
Present.
Jonathan Myers.
Here.
Walter Griesenberg.
Here.
John Mallard.
Here.
Michelle Ann Graves.
Here.
John Dittmers.
Here.
Ron Bates.
Present.
Okay. If you would care to join me, you can please bow your head and close your eyes for prayer. Thank you, Lord, for bringing us together today. Please give us wisdom, patience, and a spirit of cooperation as we work for the good of our community. Help us to lead with honesty and care for others in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen. I'd like to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is approval of tonight's agenda. We do have a few changes. On item B5, under routine matters, we need to recognize that location number is 0135. 0135. And then under E, which is new and old business, E4, we have a discussion on the budget timeline for this year. And E5, we have invited Vasia Director here to speak of some news and an invitation that she has, and each of you had received an email explaining that. And when I was as the representative counsel at the JRAC meeting, I had asked the Adult Community Corrections to come before us and talk a little bit about some of their numbers and some things that are going on. Nothing that requires a vote, just some beneficial information. So after having said that, I am prepared to take a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a first by Mr. Myers and a second by, Michelle Graves. All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, number 5 on the agenda is public comments. This is limited to 5 minutes per person, and it is limited to agenda items only. So if there's anyone that would like to approach the podium at this time for a public comment, we welcome you now. Hello.
Hi.
Would you please state your name and address for the public record, please?
My name is Michelle Harder, and my address is 1422 Windswept Drive, Greenwood, Indiana, 46143.
Hi, Michelle. We've spoken on the phone. I have your resume in front of me. You were
Yes.
going to get invited at another time to come speak, but since you're here, you take your 5 minutes and go right ahead.
Hi, so my name is Michelle Harder, as I stated. I'm a resident of Greenwood. I've been here since 2007. I'm originally from New Jersey, but I've lived here in Greenwood after attending IU Bloomington and then IU McKinney for law school. As you said, Pam, I have applied to be your outside counsel. I've spoke with you, I've met Melinda, but I've not met the rest of you. So I thought I would come and just quickly introduce myself. So, like I said, I'm a resident of Greenwood. Me and my partner, David Lexi, have a 2-person law firm. We do real estate, business litigation, civil litigation. I represent candidates who are running for office and who've been elected. I do some outside counsel work for other counties outside of Johnson. It would be nice to serve my own community. I also do a lot of appeals. So I just wanted to come and say hello, and so you could put a face to the resume, which can be kind of cold. I also brought some hard copies for people who are old school like me. I still print things. I like to touch them. It's easier for me to read. And if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me, I would welcome talking to any or all of you individually or together, etc. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate
Thanks,
you.
Michelle.
Okay, is there anyone else that would like to address under public comment? And honey, I have hard copies for
Okay.
everybody. I do.
Awesome.
Everybody got a hard copy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, but they do have them. Okay, yeah, I see no one else coming forward for public comments. So we will move on to item B, which is routine matters and a consent agenda. And by a single motion, the board approves the following items, which may include salary ordinance amendments, additional appropriations, reductions, and transfers. Any items listed on the consent agenda may be removed by a council member and moved to the regular agenda. I have had the opportunity to review these, and I don't have anything that I would like to move, so I will ask the other council members if there's anything they would like to discuss or have moved to the regular agenda.
I would motion to approve item B, routine matters as presented with the exception of, or the correction of B5 where we amended the
Location number.
location number.
Second.
I have a motion by Mrs. Graves and a second by Mr. Bates. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Moving on to salary ordinances, amendments, additional appropriations, reductions, and transfers. Looks like the first one up is Unified Courts. Hi.
Hello, Sheena Johnson, Court Administrator. I'm here to ask for an additional appropriation tonight for interpreter services, which I believe I provided the information in my letter, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just have one question before you move on. I understand this is the cost of doing business. But do you feel this will get you through to the end of the year, or where do we stand?
It depends on what the state comes through with for grants. So they
Yeah.
haven't announced the programming yet. I did more math, guys. Obviously, it was not right last year, so we'll see if I got it closer this year.
Okay. Well, that's a small amount, so I was just, and I'm good with that. I just
Okay.
wondered what your thoughts would be, but we'll probably see that.
Probably.
There's no, anybody else have any questions?
I move to approve. Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Dittmers and a second by Mr. Myers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you.
Next up, we have innkeeper's tax. Mr. Potsky?
Yes, I'm Ken Koski, Director of the Johnson County CPT Board. So in front of you, I brought one of our annual reports. Just a few of the key takeaways from that I'd like to highlight is that our visitor center visits doubled. In 2024, our hotel revenue increased 7.25%. We received about $250,000 in free media. We engaged with Visit Indiana to do co-op advertising so that every dollar we committed was matched with one of their dollars. And so that allows us to do double the marketing that we would normally do. With me today, I've got three of our board members, so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to call them up. Also wanted to point out that we just received in January our Rockport Economic Impact Study. So the situation is, before we became an actual funded tourism agency, in 2013, a Rockport study was commissioned, and it showed there was a 0.1% decline in tourism spending. So in 2023, 10 years later, with a tourism agency, it shows that we're at a 6.6% annual growth. Back in 2013, we were 77th out of 92 counties in tourism growth, so 77th. Now, 10 years later, we're 36th out of 92 counties in tourism growth. So we feel that those are trending in the right direction. And I know that I've been on a tour of the county park with at least a couple of our current council members. So I wanted to let you know that we're providing this year a $25,000 grant to the county park so they can launch their new winter festival, Deck the Stalls, but also have a synthetic ice rink to try that out for an 8 to 9 day period. And if that's successful, that could be something that could be purchased and become an annual tradition down there at the park. So, and then wanted to let you know that we've been approached by both the town of Edinburgh and Trafalgar. Edinburgh bought a downtown space that they're going to clear, and they'd like that to be a public plaza with the farmer's market, live music and things like that. Same with the town of Trafalgar. Where the library is there's a church and then another church. They bought the second church, and they're going to use that as a kind of a town center. But again, they would like to have an outdoor music venue and have their farmers market there and some other things. So they've approached us. They'll be seeking grants, but they'll need some matching funds, and hopefully our funding can help bring festivals and music, which is kind of what our main brand is, can help bring those things to those communities. So just wanted to provide you those updates. I know Michelle and a lot of you have some questions, so I guess I'll open it up to any questions you all have.
Yes, thank you, Ken. I did have some questions. I have been aware of this tax since 2016, so I've kind of watched it start from its infant to get where it is today. So, but even with that, I do have some questions. I know I had asked for a profit and loss statement so we could see what your expenses were. And we had some questions about, or I had some questions about how the money was being spent. And I noticed in the comparison from first quarter 25 to first quarter 2024, it looks like your expenses are down considerably. Can you expand on that? Do you have less overhead now than you did last year? It's a six-figure number.
Yeah, so just so you know that a lot of times, depending on the quarter, we may be really off that quarter and make up for it the next quarter. And in fact, if you would have asked me for 14 days later, there would have been a $70,000 check to Visit Indiana for co-op advertising. So that would have right there made up 70 of the $100,000. So
Okay.
it over the course of the year, it evens out and balances out, but each quarter is not going to be the same.
That's fair, I understand
yeah.
that.
And-
I did have another
go
question.
ahead.
Under grants and promotions, because it does look like the grants are running pretty even to what they did this time last year. So $19,500 in grants out of $194,000 plus expenses. Seems like there's a lot of administration cost compared to $19,500 of grants that are being awarded. Can you explain that a little bit?
There is zero administration cost. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. That's the first profit and loss that I've generated. I had to, my accountants, they were already gone for the day, so I had to just pull that off of QuickBooks and give it to you without explanation. But
Well, okay, well, I understand. I think we might need to define between each other what advertising or administrative expenses are. So that leads me to another question. I was kind of concerned about how much cash the CVT has accumulated outside of the Treasurer's Office purview. And if I could be more specific, in the checking account as of the end of March 25, there was over $360,000. There were also 3 individual certificates of deposits that were purchased for or invested for a total amount of $287,000 approximately, which brings your cash on hand to $647,541.96. And I was very curious, what are your intentions to do? We seem to be, or the CVT seems to be accumulating a lot of wealth outside of the county treasurer's office. So could you explain to me
yeah,
more
certainly,
about that?
certainly. So just to backtrack a little bit, I believe it was it 2023 that Jim Eisen was last president?
I don't remember,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that year, so most of our expenses, we can tell you exactly at the beginning of the year what they're going to be. Grants is that one strange one that we've had conversations with people and we think they're going to move forward with ice skating or some tourism amenity that we can bring in. But then as the year goes on, government moves slowly in some cases and that doesn't come to fruition. So In that year, whatever it was, we came to you in the third quarter, asked for our appropriation and said, in the fourth quarter, we will not be taking our appropriation at all because these projects aren't going to come to fruition this year. And we didn't want to get too far down that road. But to answer your original question, Destinations International, which is our international trade organization, if we were to want to become accredited, or it is also their best practices that you keep between 6 to 12 months of operating expenses. Now, that would be so if something were to happen, you can, like the pandemic.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that concept, so
So-
thank
so-
you. I get that.
But
Thank
to
you.
get back to your,
Yeah,
again,
what
to your
are our
original question.
intentions
Yeah, yeah.
for over $500,000?
Yeah, so if Trafalgar and Edinburgh both come to fruition, that would be probably 200,000, 100,000 per community. We're in talks with Greenwood. It goes back and forth, but they would potentially like to have ice skating, a permanent cooled rink, so the cooling coils are underneath, and then it's covered so rain can't damage it. That's a million plus, multi-million project, and they would probably seek several 100,000 from us. So that would probably account for the rest of that. Now, again, if those projects don't come to fruition, what I would probably do is last quarter or maybe two, just come to you and go like, we tried to move these projects forward, but we can't, and therefore we will not take subsequent appropriations.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Did anyone else have any other questions?
I do. I want to make sure I word it correctly. Are those funds available to use anywhere else throughout the county, such as our Parks Department, Johnson County Park? Everyone is talking about the SB1 that's going on, and we're going to be looking for money everywhere we can get it. So my question to you is, those funds that are available, is there a possibility that they could be used anywhere else in the county?
Yeah, so the state law outlines what it can be used for, and it's tourism, promotion, and development. So just like we're giving the parks $25,000 to develop ice skating and things like that, so yes, it would just be something where the parks, myself, and if we had a liaison on the council, we would get together and figure out what can we and can't we use it for. So like, we can't pay their salaries. We can't, as great of a job as those gentlemen do, we can't pay for law enforcement. We can't pay roads. But there are things where we can intersect and help soften that blow if that comes to fruition. So the answer is yes.
So you could, there would be a chance that you could pick through what they were paying and try to help out some?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
I had a question. Your board members, how are they picked? How long do they serve, and do they get paid?
No, it's a voluntary situation. 6 of them are appointed by the county commissioners. And again, this is set up by state code that establishes us as a tourism agency. So 6 are appointed by the county commissioners, including those 3 folks there. And the other 3 are appointed by the mayor of the largest city in the county, which in this case is Greenwood. So, for example, Mayor Barnett from Franklin, when we started this thing, he's like, well, why am I not represented? And we pointed him to state
The
code.
statute,
But I
yeah.
also said, you are represented. If you ever need anything, call me. And you'll notice in the annual report, he's one of our testimonials that, he now feels he's represented even without representation.
So they're not paid, there's no.
Correct. They're reimbursed for expenses. So for example, we try to send 1 a year to our tourism conference so that they can work alongside us and become educated on the ways of tourism. And, we feel that's valuable. So Donnie and the sweater there attended this year and really learned a lot that he brought back.
So you have employees? Just curious, how many employees do you have?
Myself and 3 other full-time. So we did a study on staffing levels, and we found we kind of picked counties that were slightly more than us in population and slightly less, and we found their full-time staffing level averaged 6.8. At the time, we were at 3, which was less than half, so we added a 4th. But we're still at 4 when the average is 6.8.
Well, I thank you for sending me the documents requested, and the profit and loss was exactly what I think everyone wanted to see. But I do think there's some more in-depth questions that we need to talk about. And I would love to meet with you for coffee sometime and hash these things out, especially our individual definitions of administrative expenses and that ratio to grants and promotions. And maybe you could shed some more light on future plans for this $647,000 cash amount that you have. And given all that, I would make a motion to table Ken's request tonight for next month's meeting in order to give Ken and I some time to meet for coffee and go over in more detail how some of the questions that we have.
Would you like to set that meeting up now, or should I email you and we can do that via
We
email?
have to,
We gotta-
we
the
gotta,
motion's
that's
gotta
the
go
motion's
through
on the
first.
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
It's just
hang
a
on.
Just a motion.
You know, it's just a motion on the floor. We have a motion on the floor.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Graves and a second, who's that, Mr.?
Ron Bates.
Mr. Bates. All in favor to be tabled until next meeting, and Michelle meet with the Visitors Bureau for further details, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so everyone is a yay, except Mr. Dittmers is a nay.
So then, yes, Ken, if you would please send me an email, let's get together, and I'll try to think of, I'll send you some more questions in writing so that it'll be a productive meeting and we can get through all the questions and,
Yeah,
See you back in
when you
April.
send me what you want, then I have a
Okay.
chance to get that all ready for.
And
our
you have
meeting.
enough money to operate between now and
Yeah,
then?
we'll be
Okay.
fine for a month. Yeah,
Okay.
you have our numbers, so we'll
Yeah.
be
Okay.
fine.
thank you
Thank
so
you all.
much, Ken.
Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is Sheriff.
Hi there. Wayne Burgess, Johnson County Sheriff. I'm here tonight to ask for 4 additional correctional officers. I know that I've sent a lot of emails out to everybody, and I know that some folks wanted some numbers. And a lot of this is through the courts. We're staying really busy with the courts, the transportation of inmates, in-state, out-of-state, DOC, courts, back and forth. And I know that you wanted some numbers. In 2021, we did a total of 2,782 transports. In 22, that number was 3,371. In 23, it was 3,962, and 4,368 in 24. So far this year, we're at 447. And the jail does a lot when I talk about transports. If it's an immediate detention or a mental writ, a lot of times those are coming in at the end of the day through the courts because they've done their job. They've had to interview doctors and stuff to get that mental writ. Those usually come in at the end of the day or shift change. So people have to stay over to do those. But there's hospital visits. If we're Johnson County, we send somebody to the hospital, and we're Johnson Memorial, they require 1 officer unless that particular inmate is here for a higher violent charge. But anytime if we just go for something to Methodist, to St. Francis, or to Wishart, we have to send 2. And there's times that on a weekend that we've had 4 people, 4 different inmates at 4 different hospitals. So folks are being called in. They're also pulling from the shift, and I have a minimum that I have to keep in the jail because of the average of inmates that we have in our facility. And that number, it varies. Our average was 354 so far this year, up to this date. I did some stuff for one of the news outlets today. And back to transport or extraditions. The prosecutors changed some of the parameters on our extraditions, and we're finding ourselves going to a lot of different places in the state, but out of state. We've been out to Illinois 4 times this year, Kentucky, California, Texas, Louisiana, and West Virginia. Those are high-profile cases. We have to send 2 folks to do that. And sometimes we'll try to pick the slack up, administration at the sheriff's office, and we'll take a reserve or somebody else within the department to go do those transports. 4 was not the magic number we had. Sheena Johnson, Judge Cummins, we sat down a few months ago and we discussed this. And then I got my paperwork in to request these 4 folks. I would like to have more, but we have moved staff around in order to be able to handle this workload. And right now, I'm going to see these numbers probably increase of what we're doing. And I try to be very good with the taxpayers' money, but we still have a business to run, and I have to make sure not only the employees, but the inmates stay safe and the community stays safe. I know you got some questions, and I'm pretty passionate about the sheriff's office, been doing it a little while.
I'm just curious, how do you transport all the way to California? Do you,
We pick up, we'll fly,
oh,
and there's certain parameters, we have to have certain paperwork for us to fly to go pick somebody up and bring them back.
okay.
Before everybody starts with their questions, Amy and I were looking at some numbers and just wanted to ask you a couple of housekeeping things. Okay, do you have a wearing apparel policy out there? I mean, as far as how much each officer gets? As far as
Yes, we
money?
do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the numbers that you put in here, I don't think equals, based on what you asked for the number of officers last year, I think it's less.
We did decrease some people within the jail to make it be good with the taxpayers' money.
Okay. How many open positions do you have at the jail right now?
Wow, that never changes quite a bit, and that's something that Chief Deputy Barnhart and I talked about. We may not see the full effects of me asking for these 4 people, because throughout the year, people either quit, this is not for them, they get hired at another police department, sheriff's office, another agency somewhere, they just choose not to do this job. So that number kind of varies. We may have 4 right now.
4 open positions? Okay. And then, and you know, you've got to deal with perf and
Right.
and all of that as well, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Next.
So you're aware of what's happening with Senate Bill 1 and kind of?
I'm absolutely clear on what's happening with it, and I'm not real happy right now with this year's stuff that's happened in the legislation.
So that puts us in a quandary.
And I understand that.
But I want to, on the other side of that fence, I've been through your jail, and I've walked through there when you have inmates, and I would strongly recommend that everyone on council do the same, because you get a real sense for the danger your officers and correctional officers are in when they're in that environment. So how does this help you in that regard?
It helps us on getting people. Circuit court wants to see all their people in person. Some of the other courts, if it's magistrate, Sup 1, Sup 2, Sup 3, you still have Greenwood City, Franklin City. Sometimes they'll do the Zoom, but if an inmate wants to go to court, they have that ability to go to court and see the judge face to face. So you still have that court going on. If you're in Sup 2 and they're doing court by Zoom, we still have to have officers over in that court with the inmates that we've taken. And that's where we're just trying to get out of that COVID era where we're taking people back to court. Before, we didn't do the Zoom type court hearings. And it's something that I know that the prosecutor and all the judges, we've talked about this, and that's a big duty. We got a lot of folks, and we have a lot of new cases that are being filed in Johnson County, and there's some more workload. And when we built the jail, we did a study, and I turned down 10 people. I'm like, we don't need those folks right now. Right now, I'm needing 4.
I thank you for the information. It's really helpful. I had a question, and again, pardon my ignorance on this, but for the number in 21, there was 2,782 transports. Is that what that means?
Yeah.
Individual transports, and then 4,368 in 2024, so a large increase.
Yep.
What were the number of officers that are they dedicated to transporting, or are there people that are dedicated to that?
There is.
Okay.
Court transportation and courthouse security.
How many of those were there in 2021 versus now?
Oh, I'd have to go back. I didn't look at those numbers. We've just always added. I can't tell you if I had 80 correctional officers in 21, it would probably be 22. I've never been right at 80, just because we can't. I believe you guys one year, the council gave us 5 or 10, and it took me 2 years to fill those positions. We had 9, 7 then, 9 now.
Okay.
Seven dedicated to transport.
Back in 21, it'd been 7
9
dedicated
today.
to that court, yes.
And that's a 57, my math's right, 57% increase from 21 to 24 is basically the.
Right, and then you got to take in consideration people calling in sick, vacation days, personal days, all that comes into play. Yes.
My question is, and like I say, I'm the new kid on the block here. I'm sure have looked at the funding source, and you're asking us for the funding source, and I'm asking council too, what's our funding
The
source?
general fund?
From the general
Lit.
fund?
This is
Yeah,
lit.
lit. I'm
This
sorry.
is lit.
I've got a comment for that. I did just want to point out, and I'm sure you know the number because you guys are really good at what you do. The 4 officers with the perf and the FICA and the wearing apparel is almost $250,000 ask to the annual budget. That's just what it's going to cost in real numbers. But to your question, Ron, that money comes out of the LIT, that's our local income tax, for the correctional/rehab facilities. So that money, when council approved that new tax, it was earmarked for this very specific thing. And to add to that, I did check with the auditor's office to see how our lit revenue was progressing compared to last year. And in 2025, the lit revenue is expected to meet or exceed the number that we received in 2024. So it looks like the money's there in the lit.
Thank you. And something that I always bring up, there's some floors within the jail right today. I'm always getting something. I'm working with commissioners. If it's air handlers, things that they didn't teach at the academy, there's things that pop up. I've got to have some floors repaired in an upper tier in the jail, and I know that's $14,000. And I'm not going to come to the council for that. I'm still going to be consistent with what I use the commissary funds for to take care of that, because truthfully, I don't like coming up. I love everybody up there, but I just don't like coming and asking for money.
I just want to say that I'm going to speak for me and not everybody else. I fully support, as I know everybody knows, our justice system. You know, I know the safety and efficiency of our departments depends on the taxpayer's safety. And I also understand the increasing demands. As I had told you before, I will, as long as it's justifiable and needed, I'll be your first advocate. But I have to tell you, my drawbacks are, it's in the middle of the ball game. A new budget season is coming up. And I know people are tired of hearing this SB1, and I probably know as least about it as most do. But you know, in the past, I have said there's only so much of the pie to go around. I'm not so sure we're even going to have a pie this year. So they were, even as we speak, they're in there talking. And I'm not saying I'm a no. You know, I will support you, and especially with the lit. That's what it's earmarked for. But I think I personally would feel a little more comfortable to have just a little bit of breathing room on it until we see what's going to happen. That's just my opinion. So,
Sheena, would you like to add anything?
I just want to say that the judges are in full support of his request.
I think that was in the email we got, that if you want, that's fine. But yes, we realize there's not a soul against this or disapproves with this, and all the courts and the judges are on board, and I think that's a good thing.
Yes, that is a fact. The transport staff helps us immensely with getting people where they need to be for various reasons. Sometimes you have people who just relate better to you face to face, right? And of course, criminal defendants do have a right to be seen in person. So the judges do support this request. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the lit correctional rehab facilities as requested by the sheriff this evening.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve the request as presented. and a second by Ms. Grismer and a second by Mr. Mallers.
No?
John
I'm
P.
sorry, Mr.
Johnson.
Myers, just call everybody John. Okay, let's do a roll call.
Can we
I'm
have a
sorry.
little further discussion?
You still can.
Yes, I think we should, because I was going to suggest we table it until SB 1 came through and get back to this next month was going to be my suggestion. But then Ms. Grismer made a motion, so I'm not sure how we need to work on that, but go ahead.
This-
I'd like to, go ahead, John.
No, go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're up. Go ahead.
Okay. This lit, someone correct me, is not something that can be used for general county expenses, correct? That's what I thought. So this lit is not something that is gonna necessarily be affected by anything coming up.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
So even if SB 1 comes in negatively, and we know it's going to, so you don't think it's going to affect your department at all?
Oh, I think it's gonna, SB 1 will affect the department, I know
Uh-huh.
that. But the lid, I don't
Yeah,
believe
but,
it will. I think the only thing they've done with lid is put a percentage on it. Is that correct?
I think so.
Can I ask,
Yeah,
Mr. Peters?
only if you're gonna talk in favor of it.
Thank you. Jeff Peters with Peters Franklin, financial advisor to the county. The lid as it is today for the correctional facility will continue based on everything that's been passed to date through 26 and 27. So there will be no changes. We'll continue hopefully to see those increases. However, in that same time period, with the property tax relief given in SB 1, you are likely to see a net decrease in the property tax dollars you collect versus what you would have collected under the old law. I think you're still going to be increasing. It's just not going to be what you had developed into your fiscal plan before. When we get to 2028, we will have a new lit structure, assuming this legislation stays intact today, which will be used for any general purpose. So the funds from the correctional facility lit, I will assume the Board of Accounts will tell us to continue to use those toward their intended purpose and isolate those. But if you replace that same .2 revenue stream going forward, it will be a general purpose revenue that you can use for any municipal purpose and not exclusively for correctional facility lit as it's defined.
So if there is any good news, that's it, right?
It is good that it's general purpose revenue.
Now, do you anticipate moving anything from lit into the general fund? Because if these 4 officers are hired, are you going to have to do that? Dwayne?
I'm sorry, repeat your question.
Do you anticipate having to move any expenses from the lit if in fact you hire these officers? Do you think it
No.
can maintain?
Yeah, we did that at your guys' request.
Can
Any
I,
movement's always been done with council or auditor's office.
may I speak to that? And Mr. Peters, you correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't think there's any such thing as a good tax, but there's a better tax. And the way I look at income tax, LIT, is that it's a better tax than property tax. We're trying to eliminate property taxes. So shifting anything from the general fund to the lit is a good thing. But it's not an endless thing, because the lit does have a sunset. And I believe it was 22 years when we initiated it, or
25, I think, but
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, it changed. It had some time periods from 20 to 22, then to 25. And you have had outstanding obligations against it for some of your jail expansions.
yes.
Going forward, though, that sunset provision will go away,
And
which is
property,
a good thing.
and property taxes is not the goal to eliminate them, correct?
I don't know what the goal is.
Personal.
Individuals, it's not.
Not for individuals, yeah.
I think
Personal
it-
property, I think they're talking about, but not property
Businesses,
tax,
no.
yeah.
But I do think
Businesses.
they continue on this same trend that they want to reduce property taxes, take credit for that, force you all to potentially
taxes.
increase income taxes in order to meet
You're
your
basically
obligations.
giving a break out of one pocket and making them pay them double out of the other pocket to where it looks like they.
Potentially.
Yeah.
As you go forward. And, you know, again, that would be consistent with when we went through the 1%, 2%, and 3%
Yeah,
implementation of
Okay.
the
Caps.
tax
Alright.
caps.
Does anybody else have anything that they want to say? Because we currently do have a motion on the floor.
Just one more question. Is the lit revenue can afford an additional 250,000? What's the cash flow in there?
And
I think that's where Michelle was,
Yeah,
her question or her comment earlier.
I gotta get back to my emails unless Amy
I think
remembers
Jeff
it
spoke
off the
to
top
that.
of her
I think she
head.
sent that, now that you mention it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's in our emails though, not in
Yeah.
our packet. Amy Thompson, jail lit.
She's always on top of that.
Let's
Just a
see
shout
here.
out. I saw it, I just don't remember it. There it
So
is.
here's the numbers. I'm sorry, just be patient. I'm clicking on stuff.
Hurry.
Okay, so, in 2024, because that's, we have to compare, how are we doing? In 2024, our, monthly income for lit was $985,000 approximately. In 2025, we are receiving $1.087 million a month in jail lit income. So we are up.
I'm sorry, what's going out?
What's going out in 2024, the total amount that went out was $18,078,078.
That included bond payments.
Yes,
To the jail, and that should be
Yes.
paid
Okay.
off.
and that should be
Real
paid
soon.
off.
Okay.
This, have we made the payment for this, for 2025? Because I think there was just one
Yeah, it was in January.
payment left in 25 for the jail.
so I'm
bond.
sure you've run the numbers to see that you have enough.
Right, I mean, we're real close to
I think
paying the
so.
jail off is
Yeah.
when I talked to Commissioner
Yeah.
Walls.
Yeah, so I think we're fine
You did good.
with all the data that I've looked at as of March
Okay.
31st.
I run into this problem at my work, and so, with county, so I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Anybody else, any further discussion? If not, we have a motion on the floor to approve the request as presented by Ms. Grismer, and we have a second by Mr. Myers. And Amy, would you please do a roll call vote?
Jonathan Myers,
Aye.
Amy Reesmer,
Aye.
John Mallers,
Aye.
Ann Burton,
Aye.
Shelley Griggs,
Aye.
John Dippers,
Aye.
Ron Bates.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda, I've lost my agenda, here we go. Next up on the agenda is Unified Probation. Hi,
It was in a different
Steve
spot.
Kermode, Assistant Director.
I'm
Community
sorry, I didn't,
Corrections. Steve Kermode, Assistant Director, Community Corrections.
uh-huh.
This is not a request for any additional funding or anything budget-wise. There was just a mistake on the 144, on the Form 144s with the biweekly pay.
You hated to come up here and say that.
I did.
I know you did.
Yeah, we had a conversation about this last
You were
month.
looking me right in the eye when going,
I So this is to correct that, to increase the biweekly pay for those officers that receive an annual bump in their salary.
So just to be clear, it was already in the budget, just the form was submitted incorrectly, and we
Correct.
need to get that in the public record.
Correct.
Got it.
housekeeping.
Housekeeping.
Okay. Anyone have any questions? If not, accept a motion.
Move to approve, number 4.
Second.
Second.
John Dippers.
Okay, we have
One of the others, aye.
a motion by Mr. Mallers, a second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to other business. Approval of Johnson County Redevelopment Commission 2024 Annual Report.
Thank you all. Jeff Peters, also a financial advisor to the Redevelopment Commission, here on their behalf tonight, fulfilling one of their annual statutory obligations, which is to present the fiscal body with the annual report for the Redevelopment Commission. Those were circulated before. Just a quick rundown shows the different members and their positions held, shows that the Redevelopment Commission has no employees. Revenues for the year, as you know, the Redevelopment Commission established two allocation areas, one at I-69, one at I-65. The I-65 area for the calendar year 2024 received $73,805. And the I-69 allocation area received $75,025. Also, the Redevelopment Commission has a economic development fee structure where they receive that to a fund, and that receipt, or the total of receipts for 24 was $70,785. Total revenue was $219,615. Expenditures made during 2024, HWC Engineering for different engineering and development type studies was $6,873. Financial consultant fees was $4,598. Insurance for $318, and then a $30,000 expenditure for Aspire Economic and the Chamber for a total of $41,790. Down below under funds on hand, the development fee fund currently has a little over $200,000 in it at close of business 24. The I-65 allocation fund has a little over $112,000, and the I-69 fund has about $86,000. So total on hand at close of business was about $400,000 for the year. There is a little bit more coming in anticipated for 2025, but again, those are still relatively small amounts for the area that the Redevelopment Commission has captured in those allocation areas. We would expect over time that there will be substantial development there, and then there will be projects tied to that, which will come back to the council for funding accordingly. And with that, the back part of the report just tells you when those areas were established, and then there are about 75 pages of parcels that show you for 2024 the assessed value, the base value, and the incremental value that generated these funds for that year. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a
Thank you.
question. Can you explain a little bit what $30,000 to Aspire is? What do they do?
I believe that is for them to begin to market some of these areas. And this is something that we typically see with redevelopment commissions throughout the state. One is we try and establish these areas based on their geography that we think are going to develop, start to flesh them out with utilities, infrastructure, road access, things like that. And then the second part of that component is getting companies interested in locating in those different allocation areas so that we can really start to generate revenue and jobs, et cetera.
I can add, I have recently been appointed to the RDC and can share that this annual report was received and approved at our monthly meeting. So that being said, if this needs a motion, I would motion to approve item D1 as presented.
I'm assuming we do need a motion on that. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor for item D1.
Second.
The motion was made by Mrs. Graves, the second by Mr. Dittmers. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Amy, I need to back up to number 4 for the general fund for, we didn't mention in the motion that it was retro. We said as presented. It was presented on the paper as retro. So are we okay? Okay, thank you. So moving on to old and new business. First up on the agenda is the county liaison list update. Everyone was sent a copy of this and asked to bring any suggestions or anything that you might want to change or add. The only thing that I have received is Mrs. Grissomer has asked to be removed as the health department and the coroner's liaison. And Mr. Mallers has stepped up and said that he will take these two departments under his wing. But I would like to state again that every department has a liaison, but all 7 members of the council are available to speak with any department at any given time. You're not exclusive to your liaison. It's just sometimes easier if you have one person to work with. So if there's no objections to that, we'll make that change. Anyone else have any input, or they want to request any changes, or they're fine with what they have?
No recommendations, sounds good.
Okay, so we'll take a motion to approve the updated county liaison list as presented.
Move to approve as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Mallers,
Second.
a second by Mr. Bates. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Second on the agenda is the opioid advisory board member update. We discussed this last month, and Mr. Myers, we really wanted to volunteer you, but I took the position in hopes that you would consider taking it. I just think that it's a passion more in your line. Not that it's not a passion of mine. Is it something you might be interested in? I think they meet 4 times a year, and it's just to guide and be an input on where the money is going, correct?
So right now, we don't have a set schedule, probably just
I can't
once
hear
or-
you, I'm sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now, we only have 1 meeting scheduled per year. We might do 2 allocations, but in 2024, we only had time for 1. So the next meeting is, I believe, May 16th. And the plan is to get it advertised and hopefully allocated by the summer. And then if we have time, to do 1 more towards the end of the year. It just depends on how many applications that we get. So at the most 4 meetings, but I would say that the commitment usually is a little bit less.
Okay.
So do you have a time of day that it occurs?
It is during the day, but we don't have a set time. And we can zoom into those.
Pam, why don't you take it and leave me as the alternate?
Okay, looks like it's me.
Okay.
Do
Thank
we,
you.
we need a motion for that?
Yes.
I think we, okay. All right.
Move. I'll make that
We have
motion.
a motion by Mr. Bates, a second by,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Mallers. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I was tempted.
I'll get you that info out then.
Okay, thank you. The next up on our new and old business is outside legal counsel. But before we get started, I kind of wanted to bring everybody up to date on where we have been with this. We started on this last year, and somebody please stop me if I say anything incorrectly because I'm doing it from memory. But we started on this last year, decided that we would start with a sum of $5,000. And we would come up with what was expected of anyone representing us for that $5,000. All of us took it upon ourselves to look around and talk and try to find people that might be interested. And we did this for 2 or 3 months, and it didn't move forward. So then I believe it was decided that we would place an ad in our local newspaper. And then we also play in local newspapers or in places where we thought it would be sufficient. And our legal team came up with, and you'll have to tell me the 2 spots that we chose to do it in, and it was,
It was the Indiana State.
hang on, you're not on. Okay,
Am I good? The Indiana State Bar Association
Uh-huh.
and the Indianapolis Bar Association.
Okay.
And I believe I also posted on IU Mauer, they have a job board, and IU McKinney, their job boards as well.
and we posted in the Johnson County newspaper here in Franklin. I think our cost for this was right at $1,000 to post it. The acceptance for resumes ended today.
It was on your website too, just on the county website
Yeah,
under.
it was on the county website as well. To date, we have received 6 resumes, letters of interest, so on and so forth. Now, what it was decided was, in different discussions, was that we were anticipating getting many. So we were going to call through them, pick out what we thought were candidates, do a preliminary discussion, In this case with Ms. Harder, who was here earlier, we did a telephone interview that went really well. And then from that, for instance, if someone was applying from Kalamazoo, Michigan, we probably wouldn't consider them. And I'm just saying probably because the final decision will be this board. But with the 6 that we have, all of you have been given copies of their resumes to take home with you. I would propose that you review those. My intents are, with the approval of this board, is to extend an invitation for a telephone interview with the ones that we have. The letter that was sent to Ms. Harder basically, and I've got it in front of me, basically just said that we wanted to provide a little clarification regarding the possible structure of the role. The county council has set a flat fee for legal services, which will cover any questions or advice needed for a 1-year period. This arrangement does not include litigation fees, should any litigation arise, and those matters would be handled and billed separately on an individual basis. We also informed her that all legal inquiries will be directed through the council president, and that they would be working closely with our Johnson County legal team to ensure consistency and efficiency in handling county matters. And we asked for the opportunity to speak with them at their convenience. That is a broad scope, but it was a general idea of what we expected. So this is the same offer I would like to do with your approval once you read the applications and the cover letters to extend to the other 5 or 6. And then from there, invite those, all of them, or if whatever we come up with, back to appear before us in a council meeting to introduce themselves and briefly answer any questions we need to have prior to making any decisions. So that's my thoughts on the situation, and based on what we've done in the past and what we've discussed in the past. So if anybody has any input or anything they want to add or take away, or anybody else want to take charge of it, you're more than welcome to. Let's talk about it at this time.
For clarification, Pam, you mentioned that with this Ms. Harder, you made a phone call. So moving forward, who all was in the phone call? And moving forward, are you going to do that same?
The same setting, it was myself, and it was actually it was Taylor, one of our legal teams. And when we started the conversation, I informed the applicant that we were in a closed room and this meeting was confidential. And what she had to say in there would be between us, and this was just our first initial outreach, and nothing was set in stone, but this is what we thought was going to happen. And she proceeded to give us her background and answer any questions that we had. The questions, I believe, were very broad, and we let her know that she would be working it was not your attorney versus our attorney. It was working hand in hand with our county legal team. She was this first applicant was very receptive, and this is what I plan on with, assuming everyone is still on board with that, and moving forward with the other applicants. If something should jump out that is out of the ordinary, we'd of course let everyone know, but then the final decision would be when they came before us, and then we would vote unanimously, or however we would choose to handle that. So,
Well, I would like to suggest then that we remain consistent with the additional 5 applicants. And I think we said in the other council meeting that as the council president, you were going to head that up.
Okay.
Which is why am I right? I don't want to assume.
I believe so.
Okay, so.
It was one of those deals where nobody really wanted to do it.
So I would my recommendation would be that for consistency, we do the same thing with the other 5 applicants.
And then invite them back for a final introduction, as Ms. Harder was here tonight. Invite them back for another introduction, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Anybody else?
Seems reasonable.
Nobody else?
That makes sense.
Okay.
To me.
You guys got that?
Good.
Do we need a vote on that, or just that we're all in unanimous agreement on that, we should be fine?
You should be fine. Yeah,
Okay.
not really, you're just agreeing to
Okay.
take interviews.
All right. All right, well, moving on to the next item on the agenda we added is discussion on the budget timeline. And Amy provided us with what we did in 2024 and what we did in 2025. Those dates have always stayed pretty close from one year to the next. So I would ask that everybody take this and look at it and see where we are. And then hopefully we will have more information on SB1. As I stated before, if we don't have a pie this year, it may be the easiest budget season we have. You know, I've always said it's hard, the more money you have, the harder it is. So until we hear from where we are and where we're going, I think it's too soon to set these dates, but I also would suggest, like we've done in the past, we keep them as close to what we have here. One of the decisions that we're going to need to make is if we're going to do the workshops again, or if we're going to keep it to first and second reading, and those are the things we need to be thinking about. So I would suggest we all take this home, look at our calendars, offer any suggestions that we have, keep up on SB1. So if anybody else, and I also requested a copy of the WIS timeline that everybody got. I know we were going to be dependent on their reports for the budget. And from what I understand, they are on, Tiffany, they're on schedule, right?
For the,
WIS timeline?
oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think everything is in line and ready to go. We're just waiting for the mushroom that exploded in the middle. So anyone else feel free to speak up
Did that information come in an email, Pam,
on.
Yeah.
from Amy? I just can't find it. Doesn't
Was
mean I
I the
didn't
only
get
one who
it.
got the budget timeline? I'm sorry, I didn't
I don't
forward
think I
it.
got it.
Okay, good.
Okay, I'm sorry. What she's done is went through, and Amy, will you send it to everybody?
Thank
She's
you.
went through and told us what we did in 2024, what we did in 2025, and you're gonna see that they're pretty comparable, you know,
Okay.
in that. And the difference in 2025 is we did do the workshops, and the times and the dates are there. So that, she'll send it, and then you guys just need to look at your calendars, look at those dates, and then let's see what's happened to the SB1. And what about the WIS timeline? Has that been sent to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so
I can
everybody
send
has
it
that
again
as
if you don't
well.
have it, but you should have it. Okay.
Yeah, so if you can,
Yes,
just
please.
resend that, and everybody take a look at it. In the past, what we've done is just always, those same times usually falls into collection of property taxes, financial reports by our financial advisor, you know, what we collected in spring taxes, and then we rely solely on going back, you know, to what comes in later, so, yes, do you guys
go ahead.
start down there?
I'm sorry. I just traded emails with Mike Reuter today, just kind of seeing if he was on top of SB1 yet. He said it's going to be a long time before they shake that out. But I asked him if he would be available for the next council meeting, and he can't. But he said like the end of May. So I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody because these guys fill up fast.
I really do, yeah. I was just about ready to say the same thing. I feel like we have to put something down in order just to secure Mike to come out here, otherwise.
I would say if you have to do that, take the same dates from last year, the year before, and put those on your calendar. If you absolutely have to have something, because it's going to be pretty close to that.
But what about Mike's schedule? That's the problem.
Well, we won't know. I was digging for a piece of paper we have here. I know this intertwines the SB1, but I sat down the other day and, no, I do this all the time. Give me just 1 second. And I put together, from all the meetings I've been in, and, you know, I'm not a professional at this, but I was trying to educate myself. And some of the questions I ended up with Mike for the SB1 was, what's the largest budgetary impact SB1's going to have on Johnson County? And how much of the money would we lose that we would never recover? What would the impact on the county's highest and lowest tax districts be? How's this going to change the homeowners deductions? And with the changes, how much could we lose in the county's net assessed value, and what could this do to the tax rates? So those are just a few of the questions that I had. You know, I know that it's going, you know, 26, 27, and 28, it's going to lower the property taxes. It's going to allow for the deferral program for qualified individuals. It's going to affect our police, our fire, it's going to affect everything. It's going to be up to us to eliminate costs on only the things that are in our control, like salaries, pushing benefit expenses back on the employees, and, you know, the list just goes on. So I don't know what they've changed, what they're going to change. My understanding is purely muddled. So he did mention today, and I don't know that this, surely this wasn't private, but he just said he thought there was going to have to be a total analysis done along with what he does. So to be honest, Melinda, until we hear something after today and from him, I have no idea. The only thing I would have to go by is what we've done, the dates we've done in the last 2 years.
Is there a possibility, though, that because of all this uncertainty and then people needing time to study how it's going to affect them for planning purposes, that the budget hearings will be moved perhaps to September, October?
I don't know until we hear from him. I don't know. I guess that's always a possibility. But, you know, and like, again, we got to see how much of that pie we have. It's required to be adopted by a certain date, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the
that's what I was
state?
thinking.
And what is that date?
October 1st, maybe? No, it's, we always do it by the last one in October, so. November 1st.
Is it
probably.
early November?
Yeah, probably November 1st.
So yeah, all of those are very good suggestions, very good questions, but right now I just don't know that we have an answer.
Well, my thought was, you know, at some years we've sat down with commissioners in a joint meeting, and I was thinking about along those lines so that he hits us all at once.
I'm sure that they probably will plan that, but I think until he gets through today and gets some type of analysis done on how it's actually going to affect us. The last I heard, we could be looking for a $7 million loss hit right off the bat. So, but that's been changing daily, so
Right.
I don't know.
They haven't brought it to the floor today, and really no one, it's not going to be final till April 29th.
So I just think we're all kind of in limbo right now. to even see if
Mike
we have
always
money
works
to
with
do
us, so I don't think it would be an issue
What's
to get
gonna,
him.
Yes.
so uncertain.
Yeah, and you know, and I don't know if this is statutorily or not, I know we have certain guidelines for our council, but I always, you know, those are our required times to be here, is during budget hearings. Those are our mandated times to be here, in person, so. Anybody else? I know I said a lot to say nothing, but anybody else?
Mike is aware of the situation, he's on top of
Yeah.
it, so I don't anticipate it being an issue for him to meet with us or at least get us information prior to any of these hearings, so.
Right.
It's constantly changing, but he understands that this is, you know,
Right.
go time after this, so.
Right.
I don't
So-
anticipate it being a problem to get the information.
I think for the next few days, we're just gonna have to hang in there and see what happens. If I hear anything or you hear anything, please let me know. I'm sure Tiffany and Taylor will keep us involved, so. Okay, if there's nothing else with that, we'll move on to the next added item, Vasia. So Lauren has, you all did receive an email on this because I know Mr. Mallard sent it in regards to some information she has about another county. So if you'd like to share.
Hi, Lauren Rainierson, Bossier Director. For the past few months, I've been working with Hancock County. Judge Sirk asked that I expand our Bossier program into Hancock County starting next year. Judge Nugent and I met with Hancock Regional Hospital, and their CEO has offered to pay the $25,000 so we can expand next year. And then we have also asked Shelby County to contribute $25,000 as well. In the past 5 years, they've only paid $10,000 a year. So with that $50,000, that would go towards the program, and I would get things established next year in Hancock County and determine the caseload and what it's going to be before asking for a part-time position. That's the only thing right now that I would potentially ask for, but I would use those funds to pay for that. And if, it grows and we do need a full-time position, it will be up to Shelby County and Hancock County to come up with more funding so we can pay for that position. However, it would be a county position. That's the only thing I would need.
Okay, all right. Anybody have any questions for
Just a
Lauren?
quick one. Has Shelby County agreed to the 25,000 over the 10? Or is that, are they considering that?
It's in the works. I've asked Judge Nugent to have that conversation versus myself. I mean, I could, but some people
Sure.
view that as a conflict of interest. I don't anticipate it being an issue. If Shelby County can't come up with the money, I know I could probably get some money from the hospital there because we work really close with them. So I don't anticipate it being an issue. However, someone will have to come up with the money, the $15,000 difference, or we will not go back to Shelby County. And if we're not going to go to Shelby County, then I'm not going to go to Hancock County.
I think we're all in agreement that we want to do this, and it's a very worthwhile program, and we'll do all we can. But the other counties can't cause Johnson County to pay more expenses toward the program.
Absolutely.
So, and I think we all agree with that. We're all on
Yeah.
that same page, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren, I appreciate it. And last on the list is,
Well, that was it, Madam President.
no, we have community corrections. My number one fan out here. I asked them to be here this evening. I asked them to be here. Did you have something about Bosnia?
No, about the outside legal counsel.
Okay,
If
can we
could
circle
revisit that,
back around?
please.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I went to the Johnson County Community Corrections, I'm on that advisory board, and there was a lot of worthwhile information that was covered. You know, there was census reports, and there was financial reports, and there was lots of things that went on, and talked about their staffing and so on and so forth. And I had asked them, they were speaking of some things that I thought needed to be brought before council. Not that we need to take any action, but just to keep everyone abreast of what's going on. So, saying that.
Thank you. Steve Kermode again, Assistant Director of Community Corrections. We just want to talk about our GPS units and give you a little bit of history. In 2021, we purchased around 250 units at $3.95 a unit. And then there's a monitoring fee of $1.65 per day per unit. So since that time, some of our units have been broken, aren't working. We've had to kind of exchange those, and we've started leasing with the company that we're currently contracted with. So, and that cost is $290 a day. So right now we're about 65% owned versus 35% leased. But we are looking at other companies to kind of figure out who we want to go with for our GPS units in the future and what those leasing options are. I think everyone, including the judges, are of the understanding that it may make some upfront cost-effective measures to own units, but at the end of the day, as much as technology changes and advances, you're stuck with those units that may not be working appropriately or anything like that. So we are looking at leased units in the future. So as our population increases that we're supervising, which we're at 240 individuals that are on those units right now, those numbers are going to continue to increase of leased supervised people as opposed to GPS units that we own. So we just wanted to bring your attention that we're kind of looking at what our options are, and right now we're able to pay all of those costs out of our project income. But again, as that increases, it may be something that will have to come back at budget time, whether this year or sometime in the future for 26 or 27, and give you information of where we're going and maybe need some additional resources at some point in time in the future as well.
That's very beneficial to us rather than showing up at a meeting one night and being like, oh yeah, I have to have this for this and because of that. To me, it just lays a little groundwork of what your needs may be moving forward. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Any questions?
They all got it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and Councilwoman Graves is asked to revisit
E3, if we could.
E3,
It-
outside legal counsel.
Yeah, it just dawned on me that, we have these 6 applications in front of us. But I do remember back in 2024, there was an attorney interested, Zach Lang.
We can include Zach if
I was
he's
gonna
still
say,
interested.
I know the due date was today, and I don't know if he knows
Well,
that we're doing this.
he's already submitted one
Yeah, I
though,
thought he
didn't he?
did.
Oh, he already has one submitted?
I don't know that he submitted anything, but he
Okay,
was.
if everyone agrees, we probably need to call him.
Yeah, he was in the
and
initial
ask him for his
discussions.
submission,
Okay.
please. Thank you, Michelle. I
Thank you,
forgot about
yeah.
Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah, good catch.
That's all. Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
if no one has anything else, we'll have a motion to adjourn by Ms. Graves, the second by
Second.
Mr. Mallers, and all in favor.
Aye.
We are adjourned.